Hello, everybody, and welcome back to this episode of Bearcat Chats. We have job fairs coming up, and someone that's right in the thick of planning those terrific events is Brandy Smith. She is the Senior Assistant Director of Operations and Data for the Fleishman Center for Career and Professional Development. Brandy, thanks so much for joining me.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Of course, Brandy, let's talk about the two job fairs. We've got the STEM fair, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. That's on Wednesday, March 10th. On
Mhm.
Thursday, March 18th, all other majors, including nursing, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. I imagine students are wondering in this virtual climate, what should I be doing to prepare for them?
Yeah, it's not too different from years where the fairs have been in person. You still want to follow all the typical practices and preparation, researching the organizations, preparing your documents, your resume, practicing your elevator pitch. All of that is still going to happen, just in a virtual environment.
And how about when I think of a job fair in person, it's like, all right, what companies am I going to hit?
Mhm.
And how am I going to stand out amidst a crowd of like 100 other students?
Yeah.
Virtually, there are some unique opportunities for students to set up meetings with employers, right, ahead of time.
Mhm. Yes, definitely. And that is one advantage to the virtual fairs that the in-person fairs don't really give students. So in preparation, students can log into Handshake and visit each of the fairs, and they can review and research each of the organizations that are listed. The nice thing is, if they are eligible and qualified to meet and take jobs at that particular organization, it'll show an option to sign up for either a one-on-one or a group session with that employer. So students will know right off if that employer is specifically seeking their particular qualifications. So that kind of takes the edge off. It helps them know that that's available. And if there aren't slots available, it means one of two things. Either they are all filled, which can sometimes happen with some of those bigger name organizations, or they just aren't searching for that particular major. But that doesn't mean that there aren't opportunities available at that employer. It just means we just have to look at other avenues to get there.
Yeah, that's interesting. How is it? So it's sort of customized based on their profile
Mhm.
on Handshake that
Yes.
the system can sort of sort out, if it's a good fit to even meet
Mhm.
with that prospective
Yes.
employer.
Yeah. And it's definitely important for students to update their Handshake profile, make sure your major, your GPA, your class year, all of that is as accurate as it can be. And that will allow them to gain access to the employers that they need to.
How about once you get into that meeting? There's so many things in person. We've talked about it in so many ways of body language, of
Mhm.
things you pick up on. When you're virtual in a little box, how do you sort of develop a rapport, that connection, that first impression?
Well, the first thing I definitely would recommend is practicing ahead of time. Just jumping into it blind can be a little intimidating. So we offer appointments with our career consulting staff where you can do this one-on-one back and forth. The consultants can ask you questions and just kind of practice that interaction. We also have Big Interview, which has artificial intelligence that will help. You'll be able to record interviews, get some feedback, that sort of thing. So I definitely recommend practicing ahead of time, but just trying to keep it as kind of easy as possible. If it helps, and you're able to hide your view, the view of you in that screen,
Hmm.
go ahead and do that. Sometimes it's a little intimidating seeing yourself right next to the person that you're interviewing. That's something new, and it's being prepped ahead of time, being prepared for the types of questions that may be answered. And just having that preparation is definitely key. And also little things, you want to dress the part, top and bottom. I know it's really easy nowadays to get away with a really, professional on the top and your PJ pants on the bottom. But if you act the part and have, be fully dressed, fully prepared, fully focused on those interviews, that can definitely help. I also recommend trying to find a quiet space where you don't have a lot of interruptions. We do have interview rooms available in the Fleishman Center that students can reserve throughout the course of the day. And so sometimes that can help too, just having a private space where nobody's going to bother you. So really what it all comes down to for me, I think, is preparation really is the key.
This is such good advice because one, I'm thinking, geez, now I have to tell my roommates, don't interrupt me because I'm in an interview, and then that's anxiety producing that someone's going to barge in or just
Yes.
forget. So I think the
Yeah.
interview rooms are great. And there is something to be said. You want to simulate that environment. And that goes for, you said, the
Mhm.
top, bottom, be fully
Yes.
dressed, dressed as it, build that confidence.
Yes, definitely. Definitely. It all makes a big difference. And even if your interview sometimes can be just by phone or chat, you won't have the video on. And little things like making sure to smile and have that enthusiasm in the phone, all of that can really come across. So, just treating it as if you would if you that person was sitting right across from you at a table.
And to just dig deeper in, even in the professional, are we talking,
Mhm.
Zoom has sort of made things more casual in the work environment. Is it business
Yeah.
professional? Is it business casual? Has the
Mhm.
Zoom or virtual environment changed that at all?
Nowadays, it's definitely gotten a little casual, and it really depends a lot on your industry. And so, making sure that you're really aware of the organization that you're interviewing with. Sometimes business casual is okay. Sometimes, that t-shirt and jeans is okay in some of those bigger tech environments. But I tend to err on the side of caution. I'd rather be the one who's overdressed than the one that's underdressed. And so, in an interview, you definitely can't go wrong with, that typical business attire. And if you don't have a suit jacket, things like that. Sometimes it's hard for students to have that type of, wardrobe now. Don't worry about it. Just dress as professionally as you can. It's really about your confidence and your demeanor and how you come across.
And what are you hearing from employers? It's funny in your office, people go to you for advice, but everyone's learning on the
Yes.
fly and adapting
Yes.
in this environment. What are they saying in terms of how they're evaluating prospective
Mhm.
applicants through a computer screen?
Yeah, I mean, employers are, for a lot of them, this is brand new. We're all working through it together, trying to figure things out. Some of the bigger companies, such as like the Big Four, Ernst and Young, they have initiated the first round of interviews have become virtual, this one-on-one quick half hour type of interview. So some companies have already been kind of heading in that direction. I think eventually we were going in that direction. This pandemic really just helps speed things up a little bit. But for employers, they're going through the same types of things. They're going through the Zoom fatigue, that trying to figure out what's the appropriate interaction. But a lot of the same things still apply. They're still looking at your documents to see your qualifications. They're still asking all of those behavioral based interview questions. They're still seeing how you get along in an interview, that back and forth, that interaction. So a lot of it has stayed the same when it comes to the preparation piece of being able to interact and converse during an interview. And then other things have changed, just the environment that you're in. I'm sitting at home right now, which is something we never would have expected. So but trying to keep everything as professional as possible. They're going to want to see that you're taking things seriously, that you're just kind of not blowing things off just because you're in a Zoom interview rather than in person.
Zoom background seems like a nice way, when done
Yeah.
appropriately, to cover up a potentially, if your
Yes,
dorm room or
definitely.
apartment isn't. That's okay.
Yes, definitely. And it is all about what the background is. And obviously, if you're having some problems with the background, if it doesn't seem to be working, just if you can find the plainest wall possible, or just something very nicely framed, you'll see. And I mean, in a lot of even meetings with people, you'll see different backgrounds, whether it be in person or the Zoom backgrounds. But absolutely, they're okay. And it really just err on the side of being professional, make sure it looks appropriate for the environment that you're in.
Any difference in terms of internships? Just because I think there's always a sense
Mhm.
among first year students and sophomores, oh, do I have enough qualifications
Yeah.
uh, to, pursue this
Mhm.
internship? What's your advice to them when they're sort of trying to navigate that part of their college experience?
Yeah. This is one thing I think that we're going to start to see some changes to is the label of internship, of having to have an internship in order to be able to be successful later on. And so you'll even see it here at the university. We're starting to see terminology like high impact practices. So it's more than just an internship. It is about what you're doing outside of the classroom. Obviously we know that academics are very important, keeping up your GPA and things like that. But employers want to see that well-roundedness. If you're involved with athletics, sometimes it's hard to have an internship and fit that into it. And so there's other opportunities such as volunteering, being a part of an organization, leadership positions. Those are not things to just kind of brush off. Those are really important. And so, you know, 10, 15 years ago, an internship was a thing that you had to have in order to, you know, take those next steps. And now, not so much. They're still very important. It's still very important to get experience in the field that you are most interested in. But sometimes it's going to look a little bit differently. Right now, we've partnered this past year with a company called Parker Dewey, and so they offer micro internships to students. So it's not the, you know, 40-hour a week all summer long internship. It is, you know, little projects here and there that employers are seeking out. So I think we're going to start to see some shifting in the way that projects are offered, the way that internships are run. But I try to tell students, you know, the internship is not the end all be all. Make sure that you're just very well rounded. Are you volunteering? Are you doing something, you know, to help support your resume, your background, those types of things?
And it goes back, Brandy, to we did an admissions Bearcat chat, and I was wondering, geez, how do you establish extracurricular activities in a time where they may have
Mhm.
been all virtual in the past year, or you may have been preoccupied, you may have been caring or
Yes.
helping out a parent, helping out
Mhm.
a sibling,
Yeah.
and so I think it's just everyone has a story to tell. It's just conveying it
Yes.
effectively, right?
Yes. Yes. And that's one thing that we have definitely heard from employers is you're not going to be judged on the things that you did or didn't do during, you know, a pandemic. And so you're going to be able to talk about having to be adaptable and flexible during a time when everybody was just trying to figure things out. And we all are very well aware that some internship programs were eliminated, things were shifted. The in person internship that you were supposed to have is now virtual. The on-campus positions that you may have had previously may have been eliminated. And so employers are very well aware. And so it's just making sure that you're able to share, you know, the types of skills, the transferable skills that you have focused on, that you've worked on and gained during this type of you know, situation. And so that adaptability, the flexibility, that's all things that are going to be really important later on. And that's definitely something that our staff can help students work through is how to share that, how to convey what you've been through and the types of things that you've done during this past year.
Utilize the resources at Fleishman.
Yes,
And the other thing about job fairs,
definitely.
I'm curious if you see this. It's okay. I think everyone wants to walk out with the offer sheet in hand or
Yes.
virtually,
Mhm.
but isn't every interview a networking opportunity at the end of the day?
Yeah, it definitely is. I mean, there's definitely those exceptions where students will receive an offer. But the majority, it's going to be another interview. It's going to be brought on, you know, you're going to be brought on site and taken to that next step, or they're going to want you to meet with a specific department or a potential supervisor. And so this is definitely just it's the stepping stone into kind of the next you know, the next stage of the process. So definitely treat it as if you would an actual interview, but at the same time, take advantage of it as if it were, you know, a networking opportunity with 70 plus employers, you know, at your beck and call.
And that even if you don't get the job, it's a relationship building. It may not be because of
Mhm.
your qualifications, but just it
Right.
may not be a fit right now, but
Mhm.
6 months from now,
Yep.
just stay in touch.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. You never want to burn bridges because you never know, you know, where your next step is going to lead. And recruiting is such a small world. Even, you know, accounting recruiters talk to nursing recruiters. Everybody knows each other, you know, kind of in this environment. So you definitely don't want to burn any bridges, have any red flags next to your name. And you never know when that person may move to the organization that you're really interested in, or you know, might have a better opportunity for you.
Great advice, Brandy Smith. Students they do have to register first before they
Yes.
can do get connected with
Mhm.
those employers. So
Yes.
be
Yep.
sure to do that.
Yes. Registration is open. Signups are happening right now. So get in there. It is kind of first come, first serve. So if you are most interested in interviewing with, you know, and talking with specific companies, you want to jump on those ones now.
Well, great job by you and the team as always, and appreciate you joining us, Brandy.